The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye," when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam from your eye first. Then you will see clearly to remove the splinter from your brother's eye. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from brambles. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good, but an evil person out of store of evil produces evil. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So no one likes a hypocrite, right? No one wants to be a hypocrite. Our Lord didn't like hypocrites. He was always beating on them pretty hard. And I think he does today. And all our readings kind of have this bent of like, you know, hypocrisy is when our actions and our words don't line up, or our heart and our actions don't say the same thing. You know, they're on different pages. We say one thing and do another, right? So we don't want to be that. We want to be integrated, right? I mean, our Lord calls us to that, to practice what we preach, in a sense. And I think that word like integration is kind of what we're shooting for. That like my heart and my head are on the same pages. My actions and my speech say the same thing, right? So our Lord teaches us that, right? He says today in the gospel that no disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. So we want to follow our Lord and learn from his example. I think, to put a little more flesh on that, I think the way we can really be integrated, the way we can learn and practice that and develop that is through virtue. Like virtue is that practice where, we're fully human. We're like fully the men and women God created us to be. It's kind of the modus operandi of the Christian life. It's the way forward, you know. We have our big moments of baptism and then kind of personal conversion and commitment to following Christ. And then after that, it's like virtue. We're growing in virtue. That's how we progress. That's how we live. And that's the path of freedom as well. So I'm going to beat on virtue a little bit, right? It's the way forward. What is virtue? The Catechism says, a virtue is a firm and habitual disposition to choose the good. All right? It's that second nature disposition that just chooses the good automatically. You know, and we have to work at that. Because left to ourselves, just because of the fall and the concupiscence that comes after that, we veer to the ditch. We just our vehicle just pulls to the ditch and we just go the inclination of wherever our passions lead us, which usually is not to the good. So we have to work with the grace of God to develop a virtue, right? And so virtue is when we just land in the middle, and it's just second nature to just keep her between the lines, you know. So I like virtue, and I like the word itself. So if you break it down, the root of virtue is vir. It's the Latin vir. What does vir mean in Latin? But man, right? And not just humankind, but man. So I always kind of say to the guys, virtue is when boys become men. You know, it's when we really live that mature Christian life is when we're growing and walking in virtue. And it's the path of freedom. So you think of even the old timers like Aristotle and Plato, these pre-Christian philosophers didn't even really have the religious understanding that even the Jews did. But they just kind of, through observation and experience, they landed on the reality that, hey, if you want to be happy, be virtuous. Like virtue is the happiest you can be in this life. And it's true. It's the path of freedom. It's true freedom. So if you think kind of what we're sold in the current culture today as freedom is basically, hey, just do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want and you'll be happy. You'll be free. No, it is not. That is slavery. It's slavery to your passions. That this thing inside of me that just says, do this, and I just do it, that is not freedom. That's slavery. True freedom is when, okay, I have something in my mind or heart that says something to do this or that, and I, in my mind, say, okay, maybe. And then you evaluate it, and then I just choose whatever is good. I choose the good. So that's the goal of virtue, is this disposition to choose the good. And often to actually attain a virtue, you have to kind of overcorrect. So if my pickup veers to the ditch, I have to pull her to the other side, And I have to hold it there for a while, and then eventually I kind of fall in the middle, metaphorically speaking, So sometimes we have to go above and beyond to form a virtue, and then I ease up and I'm just in the middle. Virtue always lies between two extremes, right? You can go either way on the vice world. So I bring that up today because Lent is just a beautiful opportunity to hone in on virtue. Like Lent it's where I do go a little bit over the top on my prayer, fasting, almsgiving, things like that. To then when I come out of Lent, I'm like in the center, So Lent is it's a bit of a personal project. It's time when we take I'm gonna, instead of focusing on the splinter in my brother's eye, I'm gonna focus on the wooden beam in my eye. Okay, Lord, how do we see clearly? How do I be fully the man you've created me to be, so that I can help others too, so I can just be good in the world. So I guess I would just encourage all of us to maybe, as we shoot to leave hypocrisy, grow in that integrated faith that my actions and my words line up. I would just focus on virtue. Virtue is a way when we can truly experience freedom and happiness and be fully the men and women God's created us to be.